What is going on, guys? It is Jono, and today we're going to be talking about Go High Level. Now, we're going to be breaking this up into a multi-part series where we kind of go over multiple different aspects of the software, because if I was to honestly put this into one video, I'd be like a skeleton by the end of this. I'd be like dead in this chair. And obviously you're not going to stick around for that long. So today we're going to be talking about an overview of the software. Later, we're going to be talking about how to set it up properly and the workflows and all that kind of stuff. But essentially what this software allowed me to do was scale my business to 7 figures and automate myself out of a job. And that is kind of the perspective that I'm going to be taking when I showcase this software to you guys. Now, in a nutshell, Go High Level is a sales and marketing CRM, right? So it's a place where you can have all of your contacts and manage them, deal with all different types of stuff. If you were to scroll down on their homepage here, this table here gives you a good snapshot of the different functionality that you're going to find in here. But I'll just go over it myself instead of just relying on that table. The first one that you get in here is CRM functionality. So you can have contacts, you can have custom fields for these people, you can have tasks or notes or appointments. All of that kind of stuff is going to be in here. You can also manage communication, two-way communication for that matter, with clients, whether it's text messages, whether it's emails, or whether it's WhatsApp or live chats or Facebook or Instagram, whatever, right? Literally every single platform that you could possibly message people through, Go High Level has a solution for that. You can even supercharge that with AI automation if you wanted to as well. I don't personally use that, but you can go ahead and do that as well. Now, on top of that, when you're managing these clients, you have a booking widget like this. This kind of replaces Calendly, and you can have a full cycle automation for meetings and that kind of stuff. Now, you also have a pipeline like this where you can see clients moving back and forth and visualize where they are in the customer journey with your business. You can also create invoices. You can create contracts and send this off to people. It's cool because now they have the functionality to have a 2-in-1 document builder for both contracts and invoices in one, so you don't have to separately send them, which is a massive game changer. If you deal with this kind of stuff, you probably don't like the fact that you have to usually send them individually. When you merge them into one, it's going to lead to higher conversion rates and better results. You also have a website builder in here, multiple different website builders, so you can build whatever it is that you want. Of course, you can add forms into that particular website builder, and you have reporting for all different facets of your business. And lastly, you can stitch it all together with a world-class automation builder. This is the reason why I use Go High Level. In a nutshell, I would say that individually you can find better pieces of software online. You can find better invoice builders, you can find better web builders. The list goes on, right? But there's 2 things that I really like about Go High Level. Number 1 is that it's under one roof. You don't have to go to 17 different software applications. That's just a pain, right? But number 2, and the main reason why I love Go High Level is simply just because of this automation builder. This ties everything in together so that everything can be essentially, they can all speak to one another, right? You can have a form submission that starts a new lead, that calls somebody, texts them, emails them, maybe you send enough contracts. Everything can be automated. The only limitation to the automation is your imagination, and coming back into a automation builder like this, even if it doesn't have the exact functionality that you need, you can just sync up webhooks in here, connect into make.com, and integrate it in with tens of thousands of other applications. So in terms of pricing, they have 3 models here. There's the starter for $97 a month, freelancer for $297 a month, and agency pro for $497 a month. Essentially, you just need the $97 a month plan. This is going to get you 99% of the way there. Don't quote me on that exact number, but I'm sure that most people only need the $97 a month plan. The only real reason you go up to the $297 a month plan is if you were a marketing agency and you are selling clients marketing or some online service, and you want to essentially white label Go High Level and pretend like it's your own software and distribute it to your clients, and then mark up the software, charge them so that you can, essentially license Go High Level to them. So that's the only reason you'd have this for like 3 or more or 4 or more accounts, where you're just kind of giving that software away to your clientele. Now, before you guys go ahead and sign up, if you are interested, I highly recommend taking a look at my blueprints down below. It is in the description. It is free to get these, although you do have to sign up for Go High Level. You can get a lot of the blueprints on a free trial. Some are going to be once you sign up for the paid account, but in a high level overview of this, I walk through how I got my business to 7 figures, how I automated myself out of a job, and I broke that down into different workflows for every stage of the customer journey, from new lead to sales call to appointment and so on and so forth, all the way from the very beginning of the customer journey until the very end. So once again, if you guys are interested, I highly recommend taking a look at that. With that being said, let's dive in. Before we do, make sure to subscribe to this channel if you are new, because if you like videos like this, then I'm sure you're gonna like all the other videos that I release as well. So let's get started. All right, so if you guys just log in to Go High Level, let's say for the first time, you're gonna land on this page, app.gohighlevel.com/accounts. You can see it up here in the URL. Now, do you remember that earlier on in this video, I kind of talked about the pricing here, where you have the $97 a month plan and then the $297 a month plan and so on and so forth. And with this higher plan, the only reason you'd actually go up to it is if you're a marketing agency and you want to white label the software and distribute it to your clients. So in Go High Level, it's a sales and marketing software. Now, for you to distribute it to your clients, you need to create sub accounts for them, right? So in this view, this is the agency or your view, right? So if you were to redistribute the software, you could have multiple clients here and you could go into different accounts. Now, for me and for most people watching this, this is not going to necessarily be applicable, because you might just be a plumbing business. You might just want to have your sole business on here. You're not trying to, redistribute the software to other people, and this is not applicable. But the reason I'm highlighting this is because if you are a marketing agency, then you're going to have multiple sub accounts. Now, let's say you go ahead and you want to create a sub account. All you have to do is click this massive green button up here, which is add sub account in the sub accounts tab on the sidebar. Now, you can go ahead and just create a blank snapshot for now. You should be able to load in my snapshot that I provided you with. There will be a link that I send you if you did sign up with that. You could type in your business name here, or you could just add manually, and then it's going to ask you for a couple details for you to add in, right? Once you've gone ahead and done that, then we can log into your account. We're gonna switch back to this agency view later in this video. The reason why we're gonna cover it later in the video is because, quite frankly, I don't think it's super important, and I'd rather focus our time on the highest or the most valuable aspects of Go High Level. So we're gonna log into our account. Now, to put it bluntly, there's one thing in here that I spend most of my time in, and that is this automations tab right here. Now, I want to just go straight into talking about this, but the reality is that in order for me to talk about this, it kind of hinges on the other functionality too. So I'm going to give a high level overview. Cracks me up every time I say high level overview when regarding high level. But anyways, I digress. It hinges on all the other pieces of Go High Level as well. So we're going to talk about those first. Now, quick thing here is not everything in here is created equal. To me, a lot of the functionality in here, I just never use. I might have looked at it one time, and then the next time I came back and looked at it for the second time was when I was preparing for this video after like 5 years of having Go High Level. So there's certain things that you just aren't going to use. And in my mind, it's kind of like an attic in a house where you kind of forget it exists until you actually have to move out one day. And then you're like, crap, like I have to move stuff out of there. And there's like cobwebs and all that kind of stuff. This is like the image that I had in mind when I think about some of the things in in Go High Level. And we're going to go through these one by one. But essentially, the main things we're focusing on today are going to be conversations tab. We're going to focus on contacts tab, opportunities, payments, automation, sites, and that's more or less it. But we'll start from the top and work our way down. Launchpad, essentially, in a nutshell, this is one of those attic moments where you're never going to come back to it again. This is like a quick start guide to setting up your account on Go High Level. Dashboard, we're going to circle back to at the end, but essentially you can view your analytics, right? So we're just going to come back at the very end of this video to talk about that after you kind of see what else you can do with Go High Level. Now, I want to start with contacts first because this is the CRM aspect of Go High Level. Essentially, in the contacts section of Go High Level, you can have a smart list section like this with all your contacts, right? You can see a list of 2 contacts in this case, or 40 or 50,000, right? However many people you have in your CRM, they're all going to be listed here. Now, a couple things about this. Up top here, you can have segmentation of different audiences. So for example, maybe you want a list of just everyone in your CRM. Maybe you want another list of customers, right? You can have a filter on here and say, if this person has the tag customer indicating they are a customer in your company, only show those people, and then filter out the ones that are not customers. So in that case, we filtered out Bob, right? So you can have a list for leads, you can have a list for customers, you can have whatever list it is that you want. Up here, all of these buttons are more or less mostly bulk actions. So you can, of course, you can add a contact that's not a bulk action, but bulk actions could be like updating certain stages on a pipeline, and we're going to get to this in a bit, adding people to automations, sending mass emails or text messages, or adding tags, right? How you do a bulk automation is just you select all of the contacts that you want to add, and then you just essentially add them into an automation simultaneously, right? So a lot of bulk actions here. The one thing that I want to highlight here is you can import contacts into Go High Level. So if you're going to transition from something else like Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever, you can import a CSV file straight in here, and then you can have all your contacts really quickly. This is something they did really well. Moving on here, if you sign into a particular contact, essentially everything that you'd want to know, or at least everything that you'd want to have out of a standard CRM is going to be here. This is split into 3 panes. On the left side, you have the contact details, right? And these folders and fields are all customizable. You can change the folders, you can add folders, you can create fields as well. Now, we're going to get into how to do this kind of stuff in the next video when we talk about how to set up Go High Level. But moving on here, we have tags. Tags are obviously great for segmentation. One thing you could have is a customer, so you know who is a customer and who is not a customer. And maybe you send certain people down an automation, and if they're a customer, they go down one path. If they're not a customer, they go down another path. Maybe the customers receive a text message and leads do not. You have automations here, which is cool because not only can you just add people into automations here, but you can see past automations that people have been added into. So if I go into this contact here named Bob Smith, you can see, hey, they've been enrolled in this past workflow. This is important because you can see essentially what they have gone through and what they have not gone through. This nice little whatever widget this is, I have no idea. If somebody, I guess it's like a tree diagram the more and more I look at it. But anyways, this kind of gives you a history of the automation. So if you ever trying to figure out, hey, what went wrong, you can kind of quickly see what stages in the automation they went through. And we're going to cover this later in the automation tab as well. Now, moving on, you also have opportunities, courses, communities, essentially any part or anything that that individual customer is enrolled in, you're going to be able to see a snapshot of what they're in, right? So we're going to talk about opportunities later. We're not going to talk about courses or communities just because for the majority of you watching out there, you probably don't have courses or communities that you're offering, but you can have courses like digital courses or communities straight through Go High Level. In the center of the screen, you can communicate with clients, right? So you can send text messages, you can send emails, you can have phone calls. They're all going to be listed here. So you could see like a text message, for example. You could see a very elaborate email, something that I spent a lot of time putting together. It took me ages to figure out what to write, and I came to the conclusion that it should be test email. And then you can also log your phone calls here. A cool thing about the phone calls is you can actually record it too, and you can have just like a log of that entire call right here in case you have to refer back to what was said on a phone call. Other things that will appear in here are just milestone updates. I don't know if milestone is the right word. word, but things like, hey, did this person book an appointment, or was an opportunity created? Or maybe you assigned D&D to the contact and then you unassigned D&D and it lists it here, which comes to the next point. D&D stands for do not disturb. So in case you don't want to send text messages, emails, calls, whatever, you can just assign D&D to either specific channels or to all channels, and they will be opted out of communication via all channels or just the specific channel that you indicate here. Moving on, you can of course assign users to a particular contact. So if you want to assign sales reps or project managers or whatever the case is, you can do that. Of course, you can call that person straight through Go High Level. And then on the right pane, you can see just a variety of different things that you might want to know. The activities tab here is useless. I don't ever look at this. To me, it's it's one of those attic moments. Where is that attic? Yeah, this is exactly the activities tab. You're probably never going to look at it. Personally, I never look at it, and my team never looks at it. Tasks, if you want to create tasks for people or on specific clients to be reminded of course you can go ahead and do that. And then when you're done, you can check it off as complete. You, of course, can change the view to see what tasks you have on clients as well, in case you only want to see pending or completed or all. You can have notes on clients. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can have appointments with clients as well. So in this case, it's like, hey, I have an appointment with Jono Catliff under the test calendar on November 28th, 2024. This replaces Calendly. We're going to talk more about appointments later on in the automation module. Now, lastly, what I want to talk about here is any documents. So if somebody has been sent an invoice or a contract or whatever, it's going to be listed here. And payments, if they make anything, it's also going to be listed here. Essentially, it's just a log of all the activity on a client in this view right here across the entire platform. So whatever they engaged in, whether it was payments, whether it was contracts, whether it was text messages, emails, notes or tasks, whatever, right? It's all going to be logged here in one view for you to see, right? So that's awesome. Now, moving onwards, the next thing that I want to go over is conversations. So similarly to contacts here, you have the conversation window here. The reason why you'd probably want to use the conversation window instead of just the contacts window is because you can have a list of all of the people that you're currently communicating with on the left side of the screen here. So you can, of course, communicate with multiple people at the same time. The only thing that I think is worth mentioning here is, of course, you have unread messages. When you've gone ahead and read it, you can mark it as read, then it's going to disappear from that. You can see recent messages, you can see starred, all, right? So you can filter. Another thing with the filtering is you can filter by your chats and also chats assigned to other people. So that's pretty cool here. And then you just get to see a log of everything that has been said to particular clients. Moving on, we have the opportunities tab next, right? And with the opportunities tab, this is just like a visual representation of where contacts are in their customer lifecycle with your company. You've probably seen this with like so many different apps out there. I'm forgetting the main one's blanking, but it's like Pipedrive, or it's like ClickUp, or it's like Monday.com. All of these apps kind of function the same way. You can have a nice pipeline view of where people are in their journey through your company. Now, this kind of stuff typically should be automated in my opinion, but this is a nice way to see where people are at. The next thing here is calendars. Once again, I kind of look at this as an attic moment because I don't use this. This is like a watered down version of Google Calendar. So I don't know why I would really use this as opposed to Google Calendar. The only benefit here is that if you have multiple people on your team, you can kind of see their calendar, their appointments, all of that kind of stuff. And you don't have direct access to their personal Gmail account. Moving on here is payments. Now, payments is pretty awesome here. You can do a lot of different stuff. Really, I like to break it down into two components here because you can see up at the top, there's just a lot of stuff going on. There's really, I break it down into like payments for invoices and then payments for online stores. So it's like e-commerce versus service. Either are capable and go high level. So of course you can generate invoices and you can generate documents. Now a document is like a catch-all phrase for whatever kind of thing that you want to send, but usually it's like an estimate or a proposal or a quote or a contract, right? Now for me, I just like to have everything merged into one. I don't like, it depends on the industry. I know a lot of people deal with estimates or whatever. For me, I just keep it simple. I just like sending out a contract and an invoice immediately to somebody. If they're interested, then they can go ahead, they can sign, and they can pay all in one. It makes it simple for me, makes it simple for the client, but to each their own. That's just personally how I do it. Now in this, there is a drag and drop builder so that you can build whatever type of contract or invoice that you want. The main thing here is this new section here, which just came out a couple weeks ago, but you can enable direct payment. So as soon as they sign the agreement, they will be prompted to pay immediately afterwards. It'll essentially just say, please give me your money. I'm begging for you to give me, I'm just kidding. But they will be immediately redirected over to pay. Now, a couple things about this is you can see here this contact.name section. Essentially in Go High Level, you have these custom fields here, right? You have custom fields for the account, for the contact, for the user, for things like right now, like for example, this day of the week, extended English would be like, it's Wednesday today. So this would be Wednesday, right? You can get down to the second minute. You have these custom variables, you'll insert it in here. When this is sent to a client, this wouldn't say contract for contact name. This is a custom field that's going to be replaced with the actual person's name. So it might be Bob, it might be Dylan, it might be Chad, whatever, right? This is always going to change, and you can have as many custom fields like this on the contracts as well. So that's really, really cool. And the last thing that I want to highlight here is that Go High Level works on a product basis. So when you're dealing with payments, when you're dealing with invoices, when you're dealing with selling like either like e-commerce stuff on your store, it's all tied towards products. So you have to create products and you can add them into things like your invoice here, which brings me to the next stage, which is the products section in Go High Level. I'm trying to drag this out as much as possible because this loading screen, okay, we're good. Moving on here, in the product section here, you can just generate whatever products it is that you want. In my case, I came up with a really fancy offering. If you guys want a chair, it's only $50. It's the best, it's the nicest chair you're ever gonna find in your entire life. Just DM me, I'll send you a link. You can spend $50. Hell, you can even buy one for your entire family. I'm just kidding, but essentially you'll just add in all of your products here and then you can sell them on your invoices in your store, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm gonna skip over it because I don't want this video to be like 15 hours. And essentially you can see your orders here, your subscriptions, payment links, transactions, all of that kind of stuff. The main things here are the contracts and invoices that we covered. The products, you can have coupons and you can change settings like tax information or whatnot, notifications. And then you just have to integrate in your Stripe account or whatever you use, whether it's PayPal, authorized.net, and then you can get paid and you're good to go there. Now, onto the marketing tab here. I do not use this except for two things, which is really just actually one thing. It's the trigger links here. Social media planner, you can upload like a CSV of your posts and push it to all these channels. If you guys have watched my channel at all, you know that I just automate the process of social media posting. So you can watch some of my other videos or I can link it down in the description below. But yeah, this is just time I don't want to spend doing manual things that could be automated. Emails are like custom HTML emails here. I don't use this. I just use plain text emails. If you're e-commerce company, I know like, you know, it's pretty common to do that, but let's be honest here. When you send an HTML email, there's only one of two places it's going. Number one is it's going to the social tab, or number two, it's going to the junk tab. That's it, right? I never have these HTML emails actually landing in my inbox. So with that being said, I don't use this. And then snippets here are just essentially templates so that if you want to send off manual messages faster, you can go ahead and create these snippets, send it off immediately, right? So you have a snippet here and you can send it off to a contact in your conversations tab. If I just load in a conversation here, Bob Smith, hello, Bob. We're gonna select essentially the insert snippets here, you can insert the test and it's going to enter in right there to have quicker communication. But the thing I use is trigger links. This is just essentially to start an automation. We're going to be covering this later on. And also it is to essentially have a place to standardize the links. So if I have a test link that goes to google.com and I use this link for 50 different emails, if I ever change that, I don't want to change that in 50 emails. I want to change it in one place. This standardizes all the 50 links into one spot, so I don't have to go back and forth and change it. You can have affiliates. So if you're running an affiliate offer to courses or your community or products or whatever, and you have people that are selling it on your behalf, you can create affiliate campaigns and essentially manage the payout of these campaigns, or just manage the whole thing within Go High Level. Branding boards, once again, that is an attic. Same thing with pretty much most of the stuff here. I just don't use it that often. I'm going to skip over automation for now and go into the sites section here. There's really only two things, actually three, that I want to cover here, but mostly two. And the first one is websites, and the second one is forms. Now, there is a lot of stuff here, right? I could spend 10 hours just talking about this. I'm sure you wouldn't want to hear me in 10 hours, talk about this in 10 hours, but for 10 hours. But essentially think about this like WordPress. This is a glorified WordPress. It's a glorified Squarespace. You can think about your store like WooCommerce or Shopify or whatever, but it's probably more of like a watered down version of that. I like WordPress better. The only great thing about this is that it's all in one and it's just easy to connect through the automations tab here. Otherwise, I think WordPress is better. Funnels is just a different type of website where you have different pages. So page 1 goes to page 2, which goes to page 3, right? If I was to come in to visualize that, you have page 1, and then when they're done with page 1, they go to page 2, but you can build that functionality in a website as well. And the cool thing about Go High Level is, yes, you can build all these things. You can select from a template, for example, and just choose whatever catches your eye, right? You can load that in. Say I like this template here, load that into my account, click continue. And we're pretty much off to the races here. So that's really, really cool. The only thing that I want to talk about is more about the website builder is if you come in here, you have the ability to obviously change and manipulate this website however you see fit. There's a lot of different things going on here, but in a nutshell, you have sections which contain columns, which contain rows, which contains elements, which is this orange box around, and then you can add in whatever it is that you want. This is pretty standard to any website builder, but you know, things like headlines or paragraph text or bullet lists or whatever, right? You can also add in forms. You can just see kind of like everything that is possible here, right? So that's pretty cool. Now, the only thing else that I want to talk about here really is forms. And forms, surveys, quizzes, they're more or less the same. It's just a way to process information. It's like an intake form that you gather information from your customers or your leads, just in different ways. I don't really use quizzes, or I never use quizzes. I don't really use surveys at all. The only thing I use is forms here. And if you go into the builder and you just select a form, this is just what a default form looks like. In Go High Level, it'll just, ask you to insert information. You can customize this by adding in standard fields here, or you can add in custom fields. Custom fields are fields that you've created. So for example, let's say you are a photographer and you have a wedding and you want to have a date of event field. Well, you could just come in here and add a field, and it would be a date picker field, and this would be a custom field. A custom field is just a field that you created that wasn't created out of the box by Go High Level themselves. The only other thing worth mentioning here is they have the additional logic, which you can show and hide fields depending on some criteria. So for example, let's just say if the email field is empty, right? Then maybe we want to hide, I don't know, the first name field. And if that's the case, then that first name field would be hidden. That's funny. And yeah, you have different options here. You can change the style, the theme, the options. In the form settings down here, I like the sticky contact, which means that if you enable it, quite simply, when people return, it autofills the information like their first name, last name, email, phone number. So if Bob Smith came back to this form for the second time, he would be able to have his information automatically loaded in immediately without him having to type it in. That just reduces the friction and increases the conversion rate on things like appointments or lead forms. Last thing here that I'll kind of go over is the chat widget. I also do not use this, but in a chat widget like this, you can have something like this at the bottom of your site where you collect information. Maybe you want to get a phone number or you want to get an email so that you can contact that person at a later point in time. They even have conversation AI in here. What that essentially means in a nutshell is that instead of you having to be hovering over your computer 24 hours a day waiting for somebody to send you a message, you can just have AI like automatically take it over and just message that person on your behalf, so that it automatically captures the contact information, so that when you're back at the computer, you can follow up with that person. So that's it for sites. Once again, all this kind of stuff down here, like on the sidebar. So we got membership, media storage, reputation, reporting, app marketplace, all of this kind of stuff. You guessed it, it's the frickin' addict. It's not something that I ever really check that much, but just kind of coming in here, I'll go over it very briefly. In the memberships tab, if you guys have courses or communities that you're marketing, you can add it in here. Media storage is kind of semi-useful, but once again, I mean, like, you're not really gonna come here very often, but yeah, you can see images, videos, or whatever that you upload. And then the reputation and the reporting, pardon me if my face is blocking this, I honestly, it's like, to me, it's the same thing, and same thing with the dashboard up here. I would rather just see this as like an analytics tab where you can see a high level overview of the stuff that's going on in your account. So really quickly going through them, the dashboard essentially gives you some analytics on your business, like the opportunity status. So if you recall, we talked about the opportunity pipeline here, where leads are. So we have Bob, a new lead, Jono, and sales call. We can see that modeled out in this dashboard. So we have 2 opportunities, so on and so forth. Here's the stage distribution. Like we have 1 in sales call, 1 in new lead. It's just fancy, but I just don't look at it. Same kind of deal with reporting down here. Same stuff. You can have Google Ads reporting and Facebook ads reporting, but the real question that I have for you is, why would you look at the reporting in Google Ads when it's just a watered down version of what Google Ads can actually show you, because it can get way more granular with the details. And the other thing I don't like about this either is that it talks about impressions, clicks, and conversion rates, but the most important thing for me is not necessarily this, but it's the cost per sale, right? So I want to know, of the people I'm selling on Google Ads, how many of those people actually result in a sale? Because I don't care that much about conversions into new leads. I care about how many of those people actually result in money, and what is the money I'm making relative to the money that I'm spending on campaigns like Google Ads and Facebook. The call reporting is actually not that bad. I do tend to look at this occasionally, and you have appointment reporting here. Just on your appointments, you can see how many confirmed or canceled or showed or no showed or whatever, right? So that's kind of nice. And then reputation is just essentially, in a nutshell, you can connect your Google account in here and see the reviews that you have from your GMB listing. Yeah, I don't use this at all. So now on to the most exciting part of this video, which is I feel like there needs to be like a drum roll or whatever, but the automations tab over here, which is the main reason why I use Go High Level. This essentially stitches everything in together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new workflow, and I'm going to start from scratch here. Okay. And, first thing that I want to point out here is that with workflows, and I'm sure you guys know this if you watched any of my other videos, but just with automation in general, there is always a trigger and there are actions. A trigger is a fancy way of saying, hey, what is going to start this workflow? And then actions are, hey, what do we want to do after this workflow started? So a classic example, if we come back to this website, is, let's say a trigger is when somebody fills out a new lead form. So when they say, hey, Jono, I want to inquire with your products or your services. Well, it's probably a good idea when somebody fills out that form to send them things like a text message. So we can send a text message over to them being like, hey, thanks for inquiring, right? and maybe we book an appointment with them, right? So that is essentially how the triggers and the actions work. Now, just taking a look at the triggers here, there's a ton of stuff going on here. This would be a 2-hour video all by itself. So I'm not going to get too in depth with this, but the main thing that I like to use, or one of the main things at least, because there's honestly so many main things, is form submissions, right? So when that form is submitted, it's going to fire off this workflow. We talked about trigger links before. So trigger links are just, if somebody clicks a link, then it can start a workflow. So classic example is you have a email, right? And you're sending off an email, it contains a link. That link happens to just be a trigger link, which you've set up in your Go High Level account, and that starts this workflow. Another thing could be when a contact is changed, maybe a new value is added onto that contact, like the service date in that photography example. The date is added, maybe you want to do something. When a contact tag is added, maybe you add the tag customer, and when they're added as a customer, you know this person is paid and signed, so we want to do something special with them, right? So list goes on and on and on. There's just so many things that I'm not going to be able to cover in this, but just even scrolling down, you can see how many things there are. Now, with that being said, we are going to be talking about 3 workflows in here, just so you can get a really clear, crystal clear picture of how this works. And then also you have the actions here, which is updating contacts, things like adding tags, assigning users, editing conversations. You have communication. So once again, any type of communication you could possibly think of, like sending emails, text messages. You can have calls. You can do voicemail drops where you're actually implanting a voicemail into somebody's phone. Messenger through Facebook, Instagram DMs. You can do WhatsApp messages, send live chat widgets, which was that widget bot that we had there. You can just send something straight through here, which is so freaking cool. And then lastly, 2 more things here. Webhook data. If you can't find what you're looking for here, no problem. You just connect into Zapier or make.com. Make.com is this website here. If you watch any of my other videos, this is what I talk about pretty much all the freaking time. And this can connect into tens of thousands of other applications. So if you don't find what you're looking for here, no problem. You just connect it straight into make.com, and then you connect it to whatever it is. The world is your oyster. You can connect that straight back into Go High Level by adding a trigger up top here. And that trigger could be an inbound webhook, right? So make.com sends information straight into this workflow immediately afterwards. 2-way sync, send information to make.com, and make.com sends information back to Go High Level in a workflow builder. Wow, so powerful. And the only other thing that I really want to talk about, because there's just so much going on here, is this these internal tools. So, you know, what I think a lot of these platforms have backwards is the fact that they focus on things that are nice to haves, but I don't think really make an automation builder like what is in Go High Level really special. So what I mean by that is the most important thing of an automation builder is just how complex you can make it, right? So circling back here, these internal tools are just ways that you can add complexity to make whatever kind of workflow you have in mind become a reality. So if I just zoom into this new lead workflow here, you can see that we're removing from certain workflows. We're doing conditional logic to make sure that, hey, if this person doesn't belong in this workflow, we filter them out. We assign it to certain users based on other things, right? There's just so much stuff. We have these go-to steps that act as a zipper that tie everything back together. There's so much stuff, right? But these particular internal tools are what allow you to create an infinite level of complexity to your workflows. And on top of that, I think it's worth noting in these settings here, there's 2 things I like in the contact settings here, which is you can allow re-entries. So the same person can be entered in the same workflow more than once, but they can't be entered in the same workflow simultaneously more than once. They can only be entered in after they've successfully completed it. You can stop on response. So in case somebody sends a text message, you send a text message to them and they reply, well, let's say you're asking them to jump on a call, and they reply, you probably don't want to send another message being like, hey, can we jump on a call? Because they just replied saying yes or no. So stop on response is going to avoid that from happening. The communication can be sent out at specific time windows. So if we check this off, let's say somebody inquires at 2 a.m., probably don't want to send an automated text message at 2 a.m. It'll wait till 8 a.m., till 5 p.m., whatever is within that time window, including the days, and it'll send it off during those particular days. So that's really cool. And then, of course, you can see the history of enrollment. So any person that's been entered into the workflow for this purpose, you can see that there's nobody but that's been enrolled. But in this instance, in the sales call workflow, you can see, okay, who has been enrolled, and then based on who's been enrolled, more than just entering into it, let's see the actual execution logs of what Bob Smith went through, every single step that happened, right? This is beneficial when you're debugging things because obviously things don't always go according to plan. You need to figure out what's going wrong, and that's a great place to get started. Now, just circling back here, I want to kind of go over what this looks like in practicality because it's great to talk about this stuff, but the best way to learn, in my opinion, is learning through an example, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to test this workflow out. So I have this website here, right? And we're going to go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to fill out this information. Now, just before I end up filling out this form, we're just going to go into that particular contact here. And I just have like a burner email and a burner phone number that I'm going to enter in here. So we're going to go ahead and pretend like we're a lead. We saw this website. We're like, wow, 20,000 courses, 20,000 happy clients. You're telling me you have 500 experts on the team? I am freaking sold. Where do I sign up? And they go down, they find the form. They're like, sweet, I'm going to go ahead and enter this in, right? They're going to put in their email and their phone number and consent to receiving stuff, and then click the submit button here. Now, as soon as they've submitted that, we're going to enter them into the first workflow, which is the new lead workflow. You can see that because this is a burner phone number, it wasn't sent successfully, but they're like, hey, Jono, thanks for your inquiry about working with us. Would be great to chat. You can book an appointment here. Now, this could be so much more than just a text message. It could be something like a phone call immediately. It could be an email. You could drip these emails over time. Like case in point with my new lead workflow, this is just, a sample one here, but you could send out, or you could have a phone call followed up by a text message, followed up by emails and text messages at a specific cadence, dripped out over days or weeks to come, right? To re-engage that person, to get them ultimately onto a sales call, because that's how you're going to probably sell your products or your services. There is going to be a link to a calendar here. And then in this calendar appointment, they can be like, hell yeah, I want to sign up to talk to a sales rep on their team. So they can go ahead, book an appointment here. Once again, they'll just enter in their information, right? And then when they submit that scheduling meeting here, it's going to automatically send them off another email saying, hey, thanks for signing up for an appointment. We can see the appointment details have been updated, and we just have this generic email that's being sent out here, right? Which is super cool. Tells them, hey, our phone call is confirmed at this date, at this time. Here's the time zone. If they want to reschedule the appointment because they're like, crap, I got to drop my kids off or whatever, they can go ahead and they can literally just reschedule straight from here. And then it's going to automatically take care of that. They could also cancel that appointment as well. And if they cancel that appointment, then you could send them down a cancellation automation where you try and re-engage them to bring them back. You'll notice a trend here. There's nothing that you've done so far. It's been 100% automated up until this point in time without a single second of your time. You can imagine if you're dealing with hundreds of clients a month, how much time this would save you. Let's say you officially get on the call with somebody and you want to send them over a contract and an invoice after that sales call. Well, you probably have a form where you're entering information on the call to really customize that invoice and quote. And after that, you could send them in, you can enter them into a sales call workflow. So when that form is submitted, it sends off the proposal. Now I'm just going to go ahead and manually do this just to save some time here. But essentially sales call form that your sales reps use would be entered. And then we'd go ahead and send off a contract and an invoice. And then it would be like, hey, here's the contract and invoice that's sent to you. And then they can come in here, review the contract and invoice that we have generated. They can start filling it out, sign it. And then once they sign, accept, then they'll be pushed over to pay. Now, the list goes on and on and on. These are just 3 steps that you could do. But if you look at the blueprints that I have here, we just talked about at a very basic level, new lead, sales call, appointments, right? Those are 3 steps. But what we didn't talk about is when the contract's signed, or when the contract's lost, or when the contract's won, bark leads, speed to lead, client onboarding, list goes on and on. I've really broken down how you can automate every frickin' single part of your business. And I've split tested this and tested it with millions of dollars of my own money, right? I've literally seen money burn in front of my eyes from making the mistakes, and what I'm passing on to you now works. You don't have to see that same money burn in front of your eyes. So, that's why I think this is so awesome. I'm so happy to share it with you guys. So that in a nutshell is Go High Level. I guess really the only last thing that I want to mention here that's worth mentioning is circling back to that agency view, right? As I mentioned, I'd cover at the very end. When you circle back, this is where you can have your personal view. If you do market it to other, if you do market, this is a standalone software service that you're selling to other people or redistributing, then you can have some settings here. Now, just to keep it simple, I'd recommend you guys looking through this, but realistically, pretty much everything here is just a way for you to be upsold. So if you go into template library, you're gonna have to pay for that. Partners, you'd have to pay for that. SaaS education, you'd have to pay for that. Go High Level swag, you'd have to pay for that. A lot of these things you don't have to pay for, but a lot of them are just upsell opportunities for Go High Level. I'm not gonna talk about the merits of what you could or could not buy on Go High Level, just because maybe it might be applicable depending on where you're at, but we'll cover a lot of this stuff in a later video. Just hovering over to the settings here, a lot of this stuff is just how you set up your account. If we go into, something like workflow AI, it's just going to say, hey, do you want to turn this on? And the answer should more or less be yes for all of these, because this is just going to unlock functionality and Go High Level. If you have it turned off, you're not going to be able to access it. I'd recommend at least playing around with it to see if you guys like what they have to offer. So that is Go High Level in a nutshell. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found a lot of value in this video. Once again, we're going to be breaking this up into multiple different stages. So this is just the high level overview. Still makes me laugh every time I say that. Later, we're going to be talking in way more detail about these workflows and automations, and also the setup, because we just talked about the functionality. We haven't talked about how to actually set up your account to be successful with the software. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and make sure to subscribe for future videos just like this one. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, and bye-bye.